Story.
In 1984, I joined the University of Nairobi for a bachelor's degree in agriculture, which I graduated in 1987. And thereafter, I went back to the same university for a master's degree in agricultural economics, graduating in 1991. And also, I have a PhD in development economics from Wageningen University in Netherlands. So as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable members, I have the requisite academic qualification, having mostly related to agriculture and rural development. After my academics, my professional career started in earnest in 1987 as an extension officer in Baringo. So I know the ranks. I know the ranks of the sector, and then after masters, I also worked briefly as a planning officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, and also as a lecturer at the then Embu Institute of Agriculture. So I have worked in that in the public sector in that manner, and then from there, I joined the then Coffee Research Foundation, Roiro, as an agricultural officer, where I worked for a solid 11 years as an agricultural economist and head of department. In those days were the days when the initial coffee reforms were started, when the coffee market was opened up, milling was opened up. So we did a lot of work in that area. And then from Coffee Research Foundation, I joined policy research. I joined the Mayo Institute of Egerton University, where I worked for about 1.5 years, doing mainly work on policy on dairy. And it was seminal work which was informed the liberalization of the dairy sector. And then my career, I went on to join the World Bank in Nairobi as a senior agriculture economist and task team leader for the portfolio in Kenya, working also in Tanzania, Ethiopia, Uganda, and Rwanda, but mainly in Kenya. And during my tenure in World Bank, I had the privilege to lead some of the programs, the big programs in agriculture from the World Bank, which supported the government in various areas, including reforms which came into being in the policy shift that created, and the legal reform that created Agriculture Food Authority, the Kenya Agriculture Research and Agriculture and Livestock Organization, CARO. And also, through those programs, I interacted very highly with the then cabinet secretaries and permanent secretaries in the ministry. So I have quite a knowledge in terms of what the government operations, in terms of interaction. The programs also I supported, championed and supported the introduction of, for instance, the commodity fund, the coffee fund, which later became the commodity fund, the agriculture insurance and the livestock insurance. So I had quite a good interaction in that area. Since I left the World Bank in 2014, end of 2014, and went to consultancy. And in between those consultancies, mainly I was dealing with programs in agriculture sector and evaluation and impact assessment. So I'm more rounded in terms of that professional side. Also, I had the opportunity in the last, let's say 2016, I had the opportunity to be appointed by His Excellency the President to serve in the coffee task force, which had to do, reviewed what the reforms which are necessary in the coffee subsector. So that, in a nutshell, Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sir, is my background.
Very good. Now we'll invite members to ask questions. I expect from you clear, succinct, precise, and concise answers to the questions that will be put to you. And there could be supplementary questions to main questions depending on how you answer. The first to go will be the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I will ask Dr. Karanja. I want you to tell us what you think about this on the topic of genetically modified organisms, GMOs, where there's two arguments. One, that it would boost crop production in the country, but there's also another group that are worried about health concerns, and there is also another group that is worried about seed sovereignty for the country. We know that Kenya has spent billions of shillings at Kenyatta University, where they have a lab where they've been manufacturing GMOs year in, year out, even for other neighboring countries. So what would you do to implement the Biosafety Act and ensuring that it is implemented and that people are able to make an informed choice, or what policy you would champion should you be confirmed? Secondly, on the topic that's dear to me, the topic of pesticides, we have 267 banned pesticides available in Kenya, manufactured in Europe and North America, but not used in those countries, but are only manufactured for the sole purpose of export to African countries that accept it. This has been something that has been at the table, had a successful petition in Parliament, took it to the Ministry of Agriculture, and recently, even with your immediate predecessor, to try and ensure that those products are removed from our market because they have been confirmed to cause cancer. And people have even paid billions of shillings in North America in damages for developing cancer as a result of that use. What will you do? Can Kenyans have an assurance that you will save them? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you, the Deputy Speaker, for your two questions. On the GMO and the Biosafety Act, this is a topical issue. I would say it's a very topical issue. We know that in order for us to increase some of the interventions through the GMO can increase our productivity in agriculture. But as rightly as you say, there are concerns about food safety. So if I'm approved by this House and committee, I will look at the issue. I know already there are GMOs which are already being applied, especially on BT cotton. That is already in the country. What is really the issue is where there is food consumption. And we need to balance between the safety and what needs to be done. But I will go ahead and do what is supposed to be done, especially given the Biosafety Act. It has guidelines on how to go about it, in terms of labeling, in terms of making sure that the scientific evidence which is there is utilized to arrive at a decision which everybody in Kenya will be happy about. So I will go ahead and confront the issue and, given the evidence on the table, do what is required according to the Biosafety Act. On pesticides, which are banned from use, I know they have caused a lot of havoc in terms of even some of threatening some of even our exports. For instance, you find in horticulture exports, the residues, some of them are coming from these banned pesticides. I will not hesitate, if approved, to become the CS to ban them. I don't see why they should be in our list. We should not be taking poison. Kenyans should not be taking poison. Thank you.
Before the next questioner, from your intensive and extensive research, far and wide, are GMO food products safe for human consumption without qualification?
Mr. Speaker, sir, I would say some yes, but some no. So it's a mixed bag.
Such as?
For example, I know that some of the products we are using, like soya from those countries, are good GMOs. But the others which you need to be taken, especially where genetic engineering is used, you need to be a bit careful. So that is why we are saying the scientific evidence should be used. The Biosafety Act should be followed closely because it has safeguards also. what we need to do and what we cannot do. Thank you.
Yes.
So should you be confirmed, I will definitely be at your office to ensure that those pesticides are banned. And I think I have several witnesses here. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Ichungwa?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
He's from Kiambu, but not from Alliance.
And not from Kikuyu, for sure. My name is Kimani Ichungwa. Dr. Karanja, I see you have a very impressive CV and a very rich background in agriculture. And you've spoken at length on your experience, even in the setup of when you were with the World Bank on AFA, work you have done in the dairy sector, Coffee Research Foundation in Ruiru. I was waiting to hear if there's anything to do with livestock development, and wondering whether you have done any work around livestock development, because if you have taken time to read the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, it had a lot to do with increasing productivity, right from the leather value chain on the livestock side. I was just looking at your CV and wondering whether you have any experience or anything you have done on the livestock side. Two, the extensive work you've done in the crop development area, whether in coffee or all the other areas I've seen from your CV, and very good papers you seem to have written in these areas. Other than consultancy and advising government from the World Bank, have you directly worked with the public sector or in the public sector, except the 1.5 years in Tegemeo? Not Tegemeo is a policy research institute at Egerton University. And I saw many Kenyans, when you were nominated, purporting that you used to be the personal assistant to the former cabinet secretary, Mithika Linturi. Were you, or have you said you have worked with cabinet secretaries, were you Mithika Linturi's personal assistant at any point, or have you worked with him in the ministry? Two, you have definitely heard about the fertilizer subsidy program and the scandals that came out of it. I'd want to hear how you intend to handle the, what are called the cartels in Kilimo House, especially around the supply of fertilizer, how you intend to deal with that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable member. Thank you, Majority Leader. Well, first of all, in terms of livestock development, yes, I have also some experience in livestock development. My thesis in the University of Nairobi, my MSc thesis was on cattle breeding. So that is an area. I also did a lot of work when I was in Tegemeo. Actually, I did work on reviewing the policies on dairy sector. So I'm well conversant with the livestock development. In my consultancy work, I've also worked in all the counties, especially in NASALs, evaluating programs managed by EU and other agencies in the livestock sector. In the public, you also inquired about how I've interacted with the public sector. And I want to point out that I started, as I mentioned in the beginning, I started as an extension officer. So from the grassroots. I went all the way to become a planning officer, all the way to an economist in coffee research, and of late, as a member of the task force on coffee reform. So I have interacted in various ways with the public sector. And when I was in the World Bank, definitely I was interacting with the public sector, both at the higher level and the lower level in terms of operations. Being a PA, this one caught me off guard and surprisingly. For the record, Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable members, I've never met the former honorable Minister for Agriculture. I've never been a PA.
Yes, Minority Leader.
I think so.
Have you answered all the questions?
No, there is one more, which the Majority Leader, Honorable Ichungwa, asked about the fertilizer subsidy and the cartels. And I would say that, yes, this is a very critical program, which, as you all know, members know, is the one some of the food security, center of the food security program. And yes, there are cartels. There was issues the last season, in terms of the quality of the fertilizer, the distribution of the fertilizer. And if approved by this committee and the House, this is one of the areas which I would like to work hands-on on to make sure that the farmers are getting the right fertilizer at the right time and the quality is okay. And the cartels, what happens is that cartels thrive where there is lack of competition and openness. I would make sure that there is openness and the integrity is maintained in the procurement of these inputs. Two is the issue about making sure that I have a governance structure which you guide the way fertilizers are procured, the way they are distributed, by having a multi-agency system which can check on some of these cartels and make sure that any untold thing, especially on quality, like involving KEBS at the beginning, so that we are sure that the fertilizer we are procuring is also in good quality. The other element is also to kind of remove the focus, too much focus on the central procurement. And this is what is being touted as you can go into what we call the voucher system, where the farmers can even go. Eventually, they can be able to procure the fertilizers from other agencies apart from NCPB. So there, the government doesn't have to procure. So you remove away the concentration too much in Kilimo House, so that farmers are able to procure from agro dealers eventually. Thank you.
Yes, Jeanette, you'll pass?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the nominee. And I looked at him very, very keenly, Mr. Speaker, very seriously. Mr. Speaker, the question that's worrying me is that the biggest problem in this country, in terms of when we approve people here in terms of governance, is the Ministry of Agriculture. There have been problems from the last 5-7 years I was in Parliament, from the previous ministers to the one that we approved here who are 30 cases, plus now the PhD holder who has arrived here. Mr. Speaker, I want this nominee just to prove to this committee how he is going to deal with these cartels and this corruption in agriculture. Because if we were to describe corruption in government in form of a home, the bedroom of corruption in government is Ministry of Agriculture. The rest are sitting rooms, servant quarters, and other small places. And you know, Mr. Speaker, having a PhD and dealing with corruption, having a PhD and dealing with corruption are two different things. So now that's one thing I want him to illustrate, even physically, if he can, how he's going to deal, how he's going to deal with corrupt people in that place. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, how is he going also, because fertilizer is one of the biggest problems when it comes to corruption also. How are you going to work with the industries locally here to develop a fertilizer manufacturing program within the country here so that this issue of importation of fertilizer can end? So if you can prove those two things, for me, I'll be satisfied, because I know after 1 year, you will be walking jobless in the street, I can assure you. I can tell you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Jeanette, for your questions. I know dealing with cartels is a big issue, and there are many formats and very many forms. But if I am approved by this House and this committee, I'm saying I'm giving a notice on cartels. Notice that they will be out of business. In the fact that my background is that, and one of the principles which I hold very dear is integrity, not to be compromised. And the other principle I hold very dear is having the country's and the farmers' interest at first. So I will deal with them. We will do whatever it takes.
Utatembea na nyundo.
I will do whatever it takes, Mr. Speaker, to deal with them, putting systems in place, as I said, governance structures, making sure that I involve all the agencies of the government. I'm sure the government of Kenya is capable of and have agencies which can deal with these cartels, and I will be in the forefront for that.
Nelson?
On the development of the fertilizer, it's a good one, because we need to develop the local industry. What is happening today is that most of the manufacturers we have are for bleeding. They are not for manufacturing of fertilizer. And it will be good to explore further whether they can, apart from bleeding, which is important, because we need to blend for coffee, we need to blend for tea, we need to blend for various crops, we need also to go a step further and do the manufacturing of the fertilizer. So if I'm approved, this is one of the agenda I would like to pursue.
Nelson Koech.
Thank you, Speaker. Dr. there is a crisis in the tea sector. Tea prices at the Mombasa auction were on a downward trend in 2022, forcing the government to establish a minimum reserve price of 2.6 USD for teas from the east of the Rift and USD 2.4 for teas from the west of the Rift. This initiative was aimed to stabilizing the market and addressing the declining tea prices at the Mombasa auction. However, the current pricing structure has resulted in several millions of teas being unsold, thus resulting in stagnating in warehouses and facilities. What strategies will you employ to alleviate this situation? Additionally, is the government interference in the manner necessary in a free market, and how can it be balanced to ensure that market stability without causing an adverse effect?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Nelson Koech. Yes, I'm seized by this issue about the minimum price, which has been set of $2.65 US and 2.4, and that unattended what I would call effects, which is the piling up of the tea in the warehouses in Mombasa. This is a serious issue because it affects the incomes of our farmers, of tea farmers, and the intention was good, but I think going forward we have to review that policy. It has to be reviewed with all the facts on the table. I would take the charge, when if approved, that if necessary we don't have to create this price setting. We have to say let it go so that it is a free market, but it needs to be carefully, cautiously done so that it doesn't impact negatively on the incomes of our farmers. So I will review that policy of the pricing, whether we need a market driven or a setting price in the tea sector. Thank you.
Posing.
Thank you, Speaker. And at least the nominee, in his 62 years, has at least found some time to find motivation or work in public service. Not like others who are going for retirement and they're forced to join public service. So my question to the nominee is this. Is coming in at a time when we can view or see agriculture as dead, which is actually supposed to be the backbone of this country. But the sector is dead. And what I mean, Honorable Speaker, is if you look at outlet, which is market of agriculture, is dead. All manufacturing or value addition to motivate farmers to do their farming is dead. If you go to maize, the outlet or the market is dead. If you go to pyrethrum, we used to do very well in my constituency, and for the nominee, West Pokot also grows pyrethrum at one point. But the exit or market is dead. You go to milk, is dead. Tea is dead. And you have been in public service. And suppose this committee and parliament approves you, I would like to know what you are going to do to improve this sector, particularly the value addition. Because if there's no value addition, then there's no motivation for farmers to do farming. What are you doing farming for? You don't get any money. And therefore, maybe you need to tell this committee, then how will you treat this market or outlet so that it can motivate now farmers, and your work will be more easier. Number two, agriculture is basically devolved, almost 100% devolved. It's almost like health. So in this sector, we are interviewing you, and yet the backbone of agriculture is at the county level, which National Assembly cannot access. So how will you work if you are approved? Because unless you work with counties, then your work will be theoretical, and maybe now dealing with cartels, or even those cartels might also change you to become a cartel. And as Honorable Judith says, you might find yourself no job in a year. What do you want? Would you like to propose a nexus between yourself or national government with county governments? Like, for example, having a summit between the Minister for Agriculture and all ministers of counties' agricultures. Like having a summit, maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months. Like in health, doctors have succeeded to link national government with county governments. But there's no link within agriculture, national level and county level. What will you do in those two areas? Thank you, Speaker.
Yes, Dr.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Kosin, for that. Yes, I agree with you. There's the challenge of agriculture as it looks at the moment. Because when you look through the figures and the statistics, it indicates that despite agriculture being the backbone of our economy, we are not doing very well. When it comes to even our exports, we are not doing well. We are importing a lot of food into this country, almost worth about $4 billion. A lot of food in terms of when it comes to wheat, rice, edible oils. So we have a tall order in terms of going forward. And food security sometimes is threatened when it comes to maize production. But the last season has proved, for instance, that with good interventions, like the subsidized fertilizer, despite the problems, we can still have food security, where we produce over 48 million bags, and farmers are able to, and the country is able to have semblance, a good food security. So I would first of all approach food security as one of the key areas in terms of making sure the farmers have, when approved, the farmers have those inputs, especially the fertilizer, as indicated before. The food security is also about making sure that those inputs are delivered on time and they are good quality. And the other issue, which is related to your second question, is apart from inputs, farmers need services. And these services are to be provided according to the Constitution. These are functions which are devolved, like extension. Extension, I would dare say that where I started those years ago, I feel pained to see what is happening. Extension, as we know it, is dead.
Completely.
Yes, it is dead. You go to the farmers have left to be their own devices. They don't know what to do. And agriculture is about technology. Without the appropriate technology, you can do very little in terms of productivity. So this issue about engaging the counties will be, if I'm approved, will be one of my greatest and clearest priority, in that I will use all the structures which are provided, the intergovernmental structures, to engage the counties, to see what we can do, capacity build them, to fill the gaps. I was also thinking about even what is happening with the health sector, the model where the government, the national government has the health promoters. Can we have agri promoters working in the counties from national government? So those are areas which will be, as it has been suggested by Honorable Kosin, we can have a summit where we can dwell on these issues with the agriculture committees of the House, so that we move forward. Because without extension and delivery of services, we are just doing the margins. We are not doing very, very much. We need support to our farmers. Thank you very much.
You are aware that formulation of agricultural policy, even where it's devolved, is still vested in you. So you have to formulate proper policies and cascade them down to the counties. Gikaria?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Just on a follow-up on what Kosing was saying on devolution in agriculture. There are so many state agencies and regional developments which are duplicating what is being done at the county level. My question is, what concrete plans are you going to put in place to avoid that duplicity of functions and wastage? Secondly, unemployment is a huge concern in this country. What policies are you intending to bring to the ministry to encourage the young Kenyans to venture into agricultural activity as a form of employment and engagement in terms of to reduce the unemployment aspect in the country? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Gekaria. The duplication is because one of the biggest challenges in every sector is coordination. If you don't have good coordination, the duplication will occur. For instance, I'm sure, and if I'm approved, the sector which I'm going to the ministry has about 36 parastatals. Very many of them doing various things. But are they coordinated? Are they tuned to the priorities of the sector? I think that is my challenge as the incoming CS, if I am approved, to make sure that they are tuned to what is the priorities of the sector. Because I think some of them are not, they are doing their mandate and they are semi-autonomous, but we need to work as a team, to work towards a certain goal. So apart from coordinating with counties, there are also inter-ministerial coordination which is required to make sure that those parastatals and agencies are working towards the laid down priorities. Employment. Agriculture is the biggest sector in our economy. I'm quite aware of that. And without agriculture absorbing some of our youth, it will be a very big task for the economy to do so. So we will be, if I'm approved in this by this committee, I will endeavor to make sure that the youth are taken care of, especially by when we are implementing all the interventions which are identified under the bottom-up transition, the better. Be it in leather, be it in dairy, be it in the crops like rice and everything, the value chains, all those value chains, we will get the nodes where the youth have to come in to create jobs for them and to make sure that they are meaningful jobs where they can be engaged right from the grassroots all the way. So the value chains approach is the way to go, and I will promote it and make it very clear that we are even monitoring how the youth are getting there, whether the youth are getting engaged. Thank you.
Honorable Mary Massey.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, let me take
Chair,
Naisula first.
Oh, okay.
I skipped you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Thank
Mary.
you. Thank you, Speaker. Dr. Karanja, listening to you and the comments that most of my colleagues have raised about agriculture being devolved, and even you saying that the extension services at the counties are dead, it is because the Ministry of Agriculture at the national level, you're also involving yourself in devolved matters than doing your work, which should mostly be policy, and collaborating with the counties to see that those policies are implemented and those extension services are working. Because I do not understand why the county governments are providing seeds, they are doing, they are providing all that to the farmers, but fertilizer, you keep it at Kilimo. Is it a cash cow for the minister, for the PS, for the cartels there? Why are you leaving fertilizer at the national level instead of dealing with matters policy, which is your main core mandate? And when you talk about functions being devolved, resources should then follow those functions so that then the county governments are able to work and not the money remaining here in the capital in Nairobi. The second issue is the issue of livestock farming. We talk about coffee sector reforms, tea sector reforms, even pyrethrum and cotton have a board. Livestock we do not have in this country. People who wake up every morning thinking and implementing issues to do with livestock. Botswana is one of the best countries in livestock farming, implemented by Kenyans. They're the ones who went to do livestock issues in Botswana. So I want to know what you're going to do to see to it that livestock farming is taken seriously. Instead of taxing Kenyans, make money through livestock farming. Lastly, on the livestock bill 2024, what will you do as a cabinet secretary to communicate properly what it is all about, because we're already seeing a lot of things flying right, left, and center. What strategies will you put in place to ensure you communicate to the public efficiently on the Livestock Bill 2024 and taking their views in? Thank you.
Yes, nominee.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Raisuda. The issue about, yes, interfering with the mandate of the national government and the intergovernmental, I would like to say that if I'm nominated, approved by this committee, I'm a firm believer in devolution. As I said earlier, if you want sustainable development of agriculture, the counties have to take their role seriously, and they have to work. They have to work. There is no other way. I'm a development economist, and I know that if you don't have structure, institutional framework to support you to do a sustainable development, it will never work. So the counties have to take their mandate. They have to take their roles, give those services. The national government have to take its role of the ministry where I'm going, if I am approved, the role of policy, the role of regulatory, and also research. Those are the mandates which are to the national government. But the counties have to take that role. And I will do whatever will be in my power to make sure that those delineation and that it becomes very clear. In terms of even fertilizer, that's why I said eventually, gradually, the way to go is to make sure that you decentralize. The procurement should not be done centrally. It should be done with agro dealers. Those are business people who can be able to do procurement, and they do it as part of their business. The government can come in and subsidize and give the vouchers. So I am, as I indicated, and I would like to repeat again, I am a firm believer in that issue about sustainable development through counties. Livestock. Yes, livestock is a very critical area. Is one of the critical areas because if I'm approved, I'll have two state departments: agriculture and livestock. And livestock has a great potential in terms of being able to the livelihoods, especially in ASAL areas. And Honorable Member Isuda is to say that I'm lucky that when I'm coming in, if I come in, there is a livestock bill which has been published, and a livestock policy which has been published. So the livestock bill is trying to cure the lacuna which was there, in that we do not have agencies which are promoting livestock matters in the country. So it will create, for instance, try to regulate what is happening in breeding, animal feeds, which members know that there are a lot of issues with animal feeds, quality and others. Create a livestock marketing board, which will be promoting livestock. A research organization dedicated to livestock, although it is between cattle. And institutes. I was surprised to learn that some of the institutes in livestock, like Haiti, which we know, don't have legal status. They are created by. So the livestock bill is trying to do that. And there are issues which are coming through, I know, misinformation, which you would be dealing with, so that when it comes for the necessary hearings and a public hearing, those issues are dealt with. So I think there's I will give it a lot of priority, the livestock bill, and so that by the time, maybe by next year, we will have some of these institutions in place. Thank you.
Mary now.
Thank you, Chairman. My question to the nominee.